Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all for joining. And today, especially to Teresa, thank you for taking the time to come and join us. My name is Althea Barnett. I am originally from Jamaica, and I live here in the UK for over 20 years. So I'm a bit seasoned towards to the climate and everything. Yeah. I I I am part of a couple of groups, not many. But be part of Migrant Voice and Together in the UK. Even though I haven't done anything for a while for Together in the UK, but I'm still a part of it, Teresa. Thank you.
Definitely.
And yeah, and I have a contribution in the book that Teresa is gonna speak about today. And yeah, I do many little things. I try my hands at different things like soap making, natural soap making, and I do a bit of craft, like not craft, and just some crocheting for my grandkids. And yeah, I'm sometimes I forget what I'm a part of. Tell you the truth, sometimes Faria or Moshe have to remind me a lot of things. I forget what I do, but yeah, it's me. Whatever Faria Moshe said, it's the truth. So thank you guys. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Thank you.
She's also an author, and she never says that. You need to talk before us. Yeah. And next in line is Teresa. She's our guest today. Um, could you do just a brief intro, like everybody else, and then we'll give the floor to you after the introductions, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'll say maybe a bit more about the book, but you might remember that a year ago today, some of you were at the Romanian Cultural Centre a year ago today. So we launched the book.
Oh,
So
Exactly,
today.
yeah.
Oh,
A year
wow.
now.
Wow, the 28th. I didn't
So
click.
this is rather lovely to be here because it's my celebration of the fact that we launched the book a year ago. So I'll just say a couple of things. So my name's Teresa Norman. I'm the founder and I call myself the chief executive of Together in the UK. We've been telling stories of what it's like to migrate to the UK for the last 8 years. So it's worth going to the site. People have been interviewed that are here. It's a rich resource of stories of refugees and migrants. I also work as a diversity consultant. So the two things feed into each other. I learn so much from other people, from the stories that we tell, and from the work that I do about underrepresented groups, what we can do to make the world a fairer place. So I live in a rather nice world of very nice people. So I meet organizations who want to do good. I meet people who are willing to tell their stories or volunteer for Together in the UK. So sometimes I'm quite shocked by actually the world is not full of liberals working together to make the world a fairer place. You know, the riots and all of those other things were deeply shocking. Or so my world is very, very nice, but I'm aware, of course, of horrors, terrible things going around, but it doesn't actually come into my day-to-day life. But I read about it and I care about it. So I'll leave it there because I'll say more when we get to the book part.
Thanks, Teresa. I'm always impressed by how, as you say, your world is a happy place, but all sorts is going on around you. And even though you're not experiencing it, you have that interest in knowing what people are going through and in other facilitating other people getting to know what other people are going through so that if they continue doing the wrong thing, they are not doing it out of ignorance. This is one thing I take from you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you.
The next person is Frank. Frank, could you introduce yourself? I think I cut somebody off who was trying to join. Sorry. You can introduce yourself. Just tell us whatever you want us to know about you. You're muted, Frank. Maybe he's not able to talk. Maybe he's just here to listen. That's okay. And the next person we have is Catherine Mahuto. I'll go back to Frank just one more time. And if he's not able to introduce, then we carry on. Catherine, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone, and hi to Teresa. Yeah, my name is Catherine Mahuto. I'm currently in Africa, in Zimbabwe. I just came to visit a family, so I'm down here. I'm a mother of 4 grown-up children, 12 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. So yeah, my adult life has been in the UK. I've been there for 22 years now, we're approaching 23. And English is my second language. I speak Shona, that's our language from Africa. Well, I'm an author of a book called The Superpower of the Girl Child. I wrote the book inspired by my real life story, and also about the girl child, what happens to women mostly. And my reason for writing the book was like, I wanted to make an awareness of the girl child, that in our own context, they are sort of marginalized in our African context, which is different from the European one, because you follow rules and regulations and they are written down. So with us, a lot of things are not written down, but they're imposed because we follow the patriarchy of men who think they know everything. So yeah, I wrote the book, The Superpower of the Girl Child. And living in the UK has been a great opportunity for me to realize that life is different, and also that you can be at a point where you're at a receiving end, where you are also at risk with people in the UK. But all the same, it's quite a safe place to live. I've lived there for, as I said, my adulthood, and it has been a good place to stay so far. And also, being in the UK, just like what Fari was saying, I used to think everyone who is white is British or is English. But then I was also quick to recognize that not everyone is British. Everyone who is white is British. What I realized was because when I started working within care, so within the care work, I could realize that someone is very white, but she's telling me she's from Eastern border, is coming from Poland, is coming from the other side, Russia. But meanwhile, we believe in Africa that when you see a white person, it's always English. And then finally to see and find out that they do not even speak the language. So yeah, it has been quite an eye-opening for me. And I'm so excited about it that I did manage to come out and stay in the UK. I've been there for some time now. My children, some of them were grandchildren were born there. So yeah, I think for now, yeah, I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Sister Rose, can you you're muted.
Congratulations, Catherine, on writing a book. It just blew me away. It's a huge achievement.
Thank you.
What about M. Mudeku?
Can you unmute her, Fari? Maybe she Can you unmute Rose?
Okay.
I think you cannot unmute her. You can only mute.
To unmute. So I've sent a message to unmute. But we will go on to M. Deku. If you can hear me, unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Some people come to just listen. And that's okay. Or if you can't talk, you can put in the comment section whatever contribution you want to make. I'm aware of time. Next is Ashraf Assalam. Yeah, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If you can hear me, unmute and introduce yourself. Okay.
I think he's shy, Ashraful Salihin. His name is Ashraful Salihin. He's my friend.
Hello.
All right. Hello.
Hello. Greetings to everyone.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm friend of Murshid Akhtar, and I live in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Oh, wow. Thank you for
I love to
joining.
travel, listen music, poetry.
That's good.
That's it. Enjoying your conversations here.
Thank you.
I know Moshe likes poetry.
Yeah.
Ashraf, next, Temi Tayo. Could you unmute and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Temitayo. From Birmingham. I joined from Birmingham. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
That leaves me. I'm Farisai Demwa. I used to introduce myself as somebody from Wolverhampton, and I've just moved to Wales. I now live in Cardiff.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the first time I'm introducing myself as a Welsh. Yeah, I'm from Zimbabwe originally. I'm also into a whole lot of things. I'm a people person. I'm especially interested in communities. I like people to integrate. I always believe wherever you find yourself at, it's not by mistake. You're meant to be there for whatever reason, and people should acknowledge and accept that. And people should welcome each other. But that's not always possible. It doesn't always happen. And so, as far as I'm concerned, wherever there's an opportunity to facilitate integration, I'm there. Whether it's hands-on, whether it's by word of mouth, I'm there. If you ask me, I will be there. I'm also a published author. I'm one of the writers on the book we're talking about today, but I also have written a book myself. That's my life story. The chaos that goes on when you're from a certain part of the world and you move to a certain part of the world and you bring your habits, patterns, cultures, and traditions with you while intending to leave it behind, and that kind of thing. The book is called Healed, The Road to Recovery. You look it up on Amazon, it's there. It will also shed some insights onto why I ended up writing a story in the book that we're talking about today. And I'm really humbled that Teresa has taken time off her schedule to come and talk to us about this book. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word migrants, they think it's only us Black people. But this book, it's people from different parts of the world, Black, white, African, Jamaican. I think they picked people from different parts of the world. So it's really good because now people can hear and know that migration is not only done by Africans. Teresa, welcome. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
I'm gonna give the floor to you. We will follow however way you want to do this on the group. We are very flexible. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd also add Latin American, German, from all over the world, and how we created. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Hear Our Stories, which is this book. Hear Our Stories came out for a competition. So we ran a writing competition during lockdown, which actually lockdown had some advantages because it meant that I could go to various online meetings and say, we're doing this competition, please can we have some entries? So we worked really hard to get entries, and then I'd asked a publisher, sadly she's no longer with us, Consuelo de Rivera Fuentes, to be a judge, with the idea that she might actually decide to publish, and she did. So Victorina Press, which sadly has gone, was the publisher of this book. And it was wonderful to work with a professional publisher because I had never published a book before. So the processes and things like that, they took account of. I would just explain Costa, who is a director at Together in the UK, he has a very creative mind, and he came up with this artistic concept. So the idea is that these are raindrops watering the people making the journey. And so everybody who has written in there is sharing their insights and helping people making the journey to migrate. And we are acknowledging that the journey is hard because it's uphill on the back. But so Sophie did the drawing, but this is Costa's concept. And I think we've had lots of very positive feedback about this, but this is what you do when you write. You share your story and your insights, and that enables others. So there's a wonderful quote from a philosopher that art helps us live. So I remember once asking somebody, a friend of mine suffering with depression, what did he want? And he said, I want insight. So this is what people have done. When you write, you share your insights, and that helps others. So so this was a 3-year project, huge project. It's one of those things we don't quite know what you're taking on when you start, but it is the thing in my professional life that I'm most proud of. When I look back and think, what have I achieved? It's, the thing that comes to my mind is this. And it was telling other people's stories. So what we did is lots of editing, lots of going back. I think, I'm not quite sure, I think 36 authors. So you have a relationship with quite a few people. Are you happy with how we've presented your work? Are you happy with how we've described yourselves? So a lot of toing and froing and shaping to get us here. So this is like huge. And then Sinead Mangan McHale became my co-editor with Consuelo, and she was just brilliant at putting in light punctuation to make little sense here and there. And there was one writer who really was thrilled with how his work had been edited, Michael Nadoon, because he said he hadn't had that before. So, and some of his poems, I'd say, are extraordinary. Some of his lines are just about how he writes about racism, and trauma. And one of the lines that he wrote has stayed with me is, how can we be blamed for the blame that they inflamed? I mean, that's just such powerful poetry. I have said, I have frequently given a shout out to Farisai's essay, which I think is so clever. Even the title is clever, and then we're getting so many words. And I just want to say, Althea, your poem stayed with me, sort of actually reflecting on the dilemma of so many migrants, coming here to support their family and the loss of your day-to-day family. It was so moving. And then Moshe wrote a very clever poem about identity. Even rain has an identity. We can sort of see things in nature which maybe we do not have ourselves. So that's just a snapshot of some of the very powerful writing that is in Hear Our Stories. And there's some wonderful stories from young people too. Brilliant essay from somebody called Chelsea about moving schools, but often they end up with success. They end up being very pleased with their SATs results. They've achieved, they've gone on to university, having had the initial struggle. So that is Sophie Mackenzie, did the drawing of the on Hear Our Stories. I was invited, so I'm going to do this, to read the introduction that I wrote into this book. So I have always been passionate about encouraging and supporting inclusivity within the UK. And in 2016, I came up with the idea of creating Together in the UK, an impartial non-profit making organisation. I was fortunate to be joined by 3 other like-minded individuals, and together we developed a communication platform for migrants and refugees to safely share their stories and to provide reliable advice and insights into life in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to pause there and say that when I started being interested in migration and you'd find out that there were kind of quite things that can be obvious to you in this country that are not obvious when you come here, like the supermarket hierarchy. Or I actually met somebody who hadn't realised that she needed to take a case into hospital and ended up being discharged from hospital in her pajamas. Just things that you'd expect people to know who didn't. And actually, even more dramatically, I met a Russian who hadn't understood that OD on her bank account meant overdrawn. So she actually thought she had a lot of money, and it was completely the opposite. Quite surprising things. So we try and provide helpful information that people might not know and people might not think to tell you, that we all automatically assume that we know what OD means. So we wanted to open the hearts and minds of citizens in this country and encourage them to welcome new and diverse people to their community. Since then, we've been privileged to share many individual stories detailing the complexities of migration. At the core of each of these stories is a sense of courage, determination, and hope. We are always developing deeper insight into what it means to leave your country and start again. We post migrant stories in blogs, interviews, and podcasts across our social media channels, and we provide information sources for navigating the often complex and lengthy processes necessary to live and work in the UK. In 2021, during what we hope will be the worst and last global pandemic in our lifetime, I felt it was the perfect time for connection through the sharing of stories, and so created our first storytelling competition. We were delighted with the number of entries in the form of poems, short stories, and essays. The writers, some writing under pseudonyms, are both first and second generation migrants and come from a range of different backgrounds, culture, ages, gender, and experiences, each with their own unique story to tell. For many of the writers in this anthology, English is not their first language, and yet they have found a beautiful way to share their insights and transform their experience into art. We hope that this book will help you gain a deeper insight into the joys and sorrows of migration. We have left much of their writing as we received it, as we know readers want to hear the true voice of the writers. We've been greatly assisted by the professional and sensitive editing of Consuelo Rivera Fuentes and Sinead Mangan-McHale. I wanted to share a coherent migration story, and so we set out the anthology in distinct chapters to represent the different stages migrants face when coming to the United Kingdom. These stages go from making the journey to waiting for a visa to be granted, facing discrimination along the way, to making a new home in the UK. Our final chapter looks at the reconnection with the country of origin, as being a migrant means having a relationship with two cultures in two different countries. I hope you enjoy reading these stories as much as we did. It's a tribute to every person who has made a new home in the UK and honours those who have embraced and welcomed them. Stories help us connect with each other, and we hope you connect with the writers and with the mission of Together in the UK. So, thank you. There's the anthology starts with a very moving poem of a young man who came here from Eritrea, and it's a very well told story. And at the end, he says, "I miss my mum." I find it very touching, and I have gone around. There's all kinds of things you do when you do a book, which I've learned. So I've gone around sort of giving it to people, and I got it into the hands of Sundar Katwala, who leads a think tank on migration, and he said it's stories that change people's attitudes. So I managed to get, just for insights, I got myself talking about the book on Riverside Radio, the local radio station. I wrote to the Runnymede Trust and said, would you post a review on your website? They did. Went to IMIX, could they post a review? Before the launch, we did a session on publishing and producing anthologies. So I got other people who put an anthology together so we could share our audiences. So I've learned tons about migration. I've learned tons about what you do to get a book like this out there and known. And years and years ago, I worked with somebody called Professor Jonathan Portes, who's he's a professor in economics. He's really pro-migration for the benefit it brings to the economy. And today, like he's huge. He's got 92,000 followers on X. I got him to speak at the event and he reposted. So 2,500 people have seen that it's the anniversary today. So I'm immensely proud of all of you for writing in it, and I'm immensely proud of myself for what we've achieved together. And I saw a WhatsApp message from Morshed today saying, "Our book. This is our book," and I just love that. It is our book. So
Definitely.
Indeed. I mean, the way I can see this book is like, I am very fortunate that I should say I am very, very, very much fortunate that I haven't been through any kind of any drastic experiences. My immigration was just as smooth as like silk, if I say like that, in comparison to like other journeys. So this is the compilation of the immigration journey, how a person become an immigrant in this country. Of course, when that person said that, Mama, I still miss my mama. Yes, so do I. I mean, it connected me straight away because I lost my mom when I was in Bangladesh. I mean, Ma, we call Ma, we address our Ma as Ma. I miss my mom every single day, every single moment. You'll be surprised to know that even today, when I woke up, like in the middle of the night or in the morning, sometimes I struggle to remember where I am, where I actually am right that moment. Is this in Bangladesh? Is this in Dhaka, wherever I lived? Is this in my university campus or where? Is this in Milton Keynes, Gloucester, or where I am now? Where I actually belong. And after living, like it's about 2 decades now, I've been living in this country. Yes, this is my country. I came here to make this my country. I am proud to be a citizen of two different countries. I am proud to speak in 2 different languages. I am proud to understand other languages as well. I am proud to respect other languages. So this is my strength.
Yeah.
This is my abilities. So I don't see any, because whenever I see a person, I cannot see, I don't know their journeys, their experiences, what they've been through, but I can take him as an individual. I know that he has got his own stories behind, which I cannot see, but still they are bearing those experiences. They will bear those experiences till their last breath. And I must say something about Teresa. Teresa, what I liked most is like Teresa made me published author. Teresa find my talent, mine, Pharisees, Altheas, and whoever wrote in this book. Teresa, this is Teresa only who find who thought that yes, this could be included. This person has got some merits. When I published my poetry somewhere, Teresa sent me a text message saying that we are going to publish a book, and we want to take your poetry to that book. Oh my goodness, what a thing she's talking about. Yes, that was amazing experience, of course. So I would like to pay my gratitude not only to Teresa, Victoria Press, and the lady who died in the middle of like the journey. So respect to you all, whoever behind this story, making this story, making this a history. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moshed. So, does anybody have any thoughts, comments from what Teresa has shared with us, or any questions? Start with, shall I do that going around, or we just open the floor for to raise their hands if you have something to say? I think if people raise,
I'm just gonna say, yeah.
it out.
Yeah, I would just, as Moshe said, I just want to say thank you to Teresa for accepting our poem. And my poem, I still can't believe I wrote that, and yeah, and think that people would like it, because when when I read it, I don't think it of that deep. But yeah, when I get feedback, I still can't believe that I wrote that. So thank you so much again, Teresa. I can say I only have a grade 9 school education, but I've been teaching myself reading, listening to people, and grasping different things. I have gone to college here, never finished. I've been to university, flunked my final module. so I'm still, I can never stop learning. And again, as I say, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you spoke for millions of people. The dilemma of, is it the suffering, the choice, never knowing if, well, you never know if it's right, if everything is worth it. I don't know if we ever know that. And I think you put it very beautifully and expressed this thing. We can never know what would have happened, if we're sliding doors, if we'd chosen another path. And the fact that it's full of difficulty, uncertainty. I think of the millions, the people trying to get here, wondering not knowing how really, really tough it's going to be. And and whether it'll be okay. And I hope that we've shown that for many, many people it is okay. But there will always be a question: what would have happened if I had done? And you spoke for many people in a very poetic way about actually this dilemma. So that's what I enjoyed, the complexity of what you were saying, and the emotion. So
Thank
I
you.
think you have imposter syndrome. We all have it.
I
We
do.
have to
I
live with
do.
it.
Yeah, I
We
do.
we
Very
we
much.
live with imposter syndrome, and I don't know if any of you read The Observer, but Philippa Perry, it's totally worth buying The Observer because for Philippa Perry's agony column, and she said imposter syndrome is a really good thing because it means we're doing something new. We're trying. So embrace your imposter syndrome. I'm embracing mine.
No, thank you. I do think I have a very, very, very bad imposter syndrome. We spoke about that before in Migrant Voice with Adam.
Embrace it.
Oh, dear. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa.
Catherine has her hand up.
Sorry. Just
Auntie
sorry, that was me, Catherine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's me. Yeah. To Teresa, I didn't have the time to write my poem as well, since Fari and Moshed and Anthea wrote theirs. I read them with vigor. I just continue to read the poems. They always remind me up to now about being an immigrant. And it's a story that one is going to carry on for the rest of your life, because until you become an immigrant, you will not know what the word immigration means. And when I came to London for the launch, I was impressed. I was like, how did you ladies do it? Because it was like too much to take in. I kept looking at this and reading this, but my journey was actually made maybe exciting because I got the book. And so I keep reading, like Moshe, when he says even the rain has got identity. I was like, what? What's all that for? Just like he says he still misses his mom. It's almost the same thing with all of us. When you leave your country and you migrate to another country, things will never look the same. They will never be the same, but you have to sort of embrace and learn how to live in those lines, and also to remember that you are there to live and not to be miserable, and then you end up not managing to stay in a country that you've just arrived. So thank you, Teresa, and the other ladies that I met on that day. It was really exciting. Thank you so much.
It was so exciting. I actually love your phrase, you're there to live. I think it's
Yeah.
a wonderful phrase. You're there to live, not to, this stuff, not to be the good immigrant or anything. You're there to live. It's beautiful.
Totally agree with Auntie Catherine when she says you're here to live. Because when you really think about it, even if you didn't migrate, you would still face different challenges, and you would still overcome them, either overcome them or be swallowed by them. So it's better to live life. It's always better to embrace life, whatever it brings. Embrace it. And I think reading all the stories in that book actually made me realize that migration is moving from one place to the other. You migrate even in your own country. I grew up in a village, and when I first moved from the village into the city, I was called all sorts of things. Village girl, you don't know anything, you're nobody, you're nothing. And when I tried to tell one of my stories, I was told, oh, who is going to hear you? Who is going to listen to you? You're only but a village girl. So my first experience of migration was from the village to the city, and then across the borders of my country, then across the oceans. And whichever direction you take, I've learned you just have to face life and you focus on living it rather than focusing on what's happening to you. You can focus on what you're making happen. And that's the interesting part of life. Make things happen and let people talk about what you have made happen rather than what's been happening to you. Sometimes we get lost in this maze of talking about they treat us this way, they treat us that way, they don't welcome us, they don't. But at the end of the day, you need to embrace your own life where you are and let people do whatever they want to do, but do the best you can for yourself. And I think once you stand your own ground, people, I've noticed that when I stand my ground, people move back and they don't actually then do this. I'm gonna treat you this way or that way because I'm dictating where I am, and I am creating those boundaries for myself. Listening to those stories in this book helped me to formulate that kind of attitude towards my life in England. And so I'm not only just grateful that Teresa gave me a platform to tell my own story myself rather than somebody else telling it for me, but I'm also grateful that hearing other people's stories also helped me to do what I call mindset transformation. And I'm a better person. I've braved moving from the West Midlands to Cardiff, which I've been wanting to do for years. And it comes from experiences like this. You dare to try. I dared to enter that competition. It was chosen. It gave me a feeling that actually I can attempt things and achieve. And I'm hoping.
Farisa,
Congratulations.
I would like to add with you that immigrants, they don't face their struggles only in that way. I mean, how can I say that? Like documentation way. Can you remember that German lady who was suffered only because of like her love?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What,
Was it?
what a touchy, and she had to leave this country at the end. Yeah, so these struggles, these pains, these experiences come all sorts of way, every sorts of
Different
way.
ways, yeah.
Yeah. Right. At this stage, I have a question to Teresa. Do you have, or I think what is that called? That Viking pairs. That Viking pairs is not active. They are not live anymore, are they?
Victorina Press,
Yeah,
the publisher. No, sadly, I think they couldn't make it work after Consuelo died. So sadly, they have shut. So we were lucky because I think we were one of their last publications.
Yeah.
So no.
Do you have any future plan for publishing anything? And
Yeah.
at this stage, I would like to say about my friend who joined from Bangladesh. It is middle of the night there. He himself is a great poet. Although he studied geography in my university, same university, we went to university together. I studied theater, and he studied geography. And time to time, although he's professional, he's a banker. He's a very established banker. He was quite senior level now. I was thinking of like writing. Actually, his presence in this meeting gave me this idea. Like if somebody writes in their own language, we have got multiple language speakers in this even in this screen. We could find someone else as well. So for example, if Ashraf is writing in Bengali, I am translating that in English, and then those both can go together. Is Aunt Catherine, I think Farisa also speaks in Shona.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone
Mhm.
from back their country is writing in Shona, and Farisa Catherine is translating that to English. How does it sound?
It sounds really interesting. There's a journal which some of you might have tried an entry to, The Other Side of Hope, that is publishing in I think you don't say native now, the language of birth. So that's worth, for if you've got migrant or refugee experience, is worth trying to see. They started like us, and now they get thousands of entries. So it's quite something if you get published in them. I think we could do something smaller scale. We could have a poetry reading, which we've done before, which has been really nice, just a poetry hour, where people read their poetry and they get feedback on it. There are places, there's Writers in Exile that gives feedback to poets, things like that. I'm just sort of learning about the infrastructure. We haven't. I'm trying to work out at the moment what our next project is, and I haven't. I'm not sure if we'll do the same again. We might be. I'm quite interested in second generation, and we've been telling quite a few refugee stories of late. So we haven't quite landed on what our next project is. And at the moment, I'm looking at to see sources because we did all of this. Luckily, we got Victorina Press involved, but we did all of this on our own bat. So if I could get some funding from somewhere like the National Lottery, that would be good. And actually, when I need to do, we got knocked back on one proposal because I hadn't done enough consultation. So I may invite myself to come back here if I may and say, what do you think would be a good idea? What should be our next project? So, but I can see Ashraf's hand is up.
Okay, that sounds good. I think
Okay.
Ashraf has got something to say.
Yeah, one thing, though I maybe my English is weak, but the thing is, I can relate with you. Migration, yeah. What was saying there another person? I just can recall her name. I born in a village in Bangladesh. Then after death of my mother, we moved to the small town in Bangladesh, Jamalpur, Murshid name, he knows. And after that, now I am living in the capital city of Dhaka. There are small migrations, small feelings. You see in my t-shirt, a lot of villages name written here. I just made myself. I belong to this area. It's the feel I feel when I wear it. I feel I'm in that area or memories. Just to keep the memory, I just when Murshid can recall, I was in job in Jamalpur. Then while I lived Jamalpur, before leaving, I just made it for myself. And there's the feeling. It's small scale migration, but feelings are the same almost everywhere, I think. And
Makes you feel lonely.
that was my saying.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Exactly. Relocation.
Yeah,
What is it called? What is the fancy word for that, Teresa? De de delocation.
Relocation.
Relocation.
Delocation. Not relocation, delocation.
Yeah,
Wow.
delocation. Yeah.
I think we could say, I mean, there's so many words: transition, journey, migration. But it's a rich thing to describe. And I think Ashraf was saying something about how you lock in memories. And to write is to lock in a memory, isn't it?
it is. It is. But I'm quite impressed by how you came up with the idea of putting the different locations that you've been at on your t-shirt and holding on to whatever memories you carry of those places. I like that idea. I tend to do similar things, but not in terms of t-shirts. When there's something that I have that I want to hold on to, and maybe sometimes it's no longer wearable if it's something that I wear, or if it's become broken in parts of it, I tend to recreate stuff using those things so that I still have a little bit of that with me because of whatever value it holds for me. So I have things on the walls that I've made from clothes, things that are on bags that I've made from little things that remind me of who I am. I like that you've done that with that t-shirt. I think I'm inspired to try it. Uh, I don't know. Does anybody else have any comments or any questions? And while we're waiting, I actually, Moshe, you took the question out of my mouth about whether you're going to do another book or not. And you're more than welcome, actually, Teresa, as you say that you might want to come back and pose the question to people here. What would be,
Yeah.
um, next project for you? We have also been debating on what other stuff that we can do because this group is mainly about addressing loneliness and isolation. How this book ended up being a conversation starter on this group is the fact that migration and its impact on individuals can trigger loneliness. Like
Absolutely.
when I felt like I didn't have a platform, I didn't have anyone that wanted to hear my story the way I experienced it, the way I felt it, and how it impacted me. It made me feel out of place. And from feeling out of place, I started feeling lonely. Even though I was surrounded by people every day, I really felt alone. And when I was given the opportunity to tell that story, I literally thought, wow, so actually there's somebody who wants to hear my story the way I experience it. And so while we are addressing loneliness from different angles, this book became a conversation starter when we started this group. This is the first book that we read. And the sort of conversations that have come out of reading each story is very, very, very inspiring. It's very eye-opening and very interesting because we all agreed that every person wrote their story from their own perspectives. But when we were reading them, everyone that was listening was getting their own perspective depending on where they are in life. So sometimes you can write a book thinking, I'm liberating myself. And then in a ripple effect kind of, what's the word? like a domino effect. Everyone that touches that book is being liberated. When you're probably you're really just to let it all out, and to liberate yourself, to free yourself, you end up freeing so many more people. So really, Teresa, I hope you'll come up with another
I
and I hope we will be remembered to be included, because I know some people that were not writers in the book
yeah.
would like to.
It's this. I've got a number of things to say. I think that one, it's this. It's it's an enormous piece of work, thrilling, and anything that you do that's rewarding is an enormous piece of work. It's really been really thrilling to hear this conversation and the impact of it. And I want to, if I can remember it, I want to share, because this is kind of one of the things struck me, one of my favorite quotes. Now, Nietzsche wasn't, he actually didn't like, I mean, he was used by fascists, but he wasn't a fascist. But he wrote about art, and he said, what is the power of art? The artist with his hues, tones, and colors creates insight, and in so doing, creates a clearing of livability in the tragic web of life. So he knew that life is hard and difficult, but he's saying insight helps us live. And this is what I was sort of thinking, partly in the book, these insights help us live. And you, by sort of you, as you said, you shared your story, but then the impact it'll have on other people is unknown, but also thrilling and exciting. And the other thing I learned in this is huge. It's a huge leadership job, bringing everything together, using your network, creating the context for other people to work in. But the leader's job is to create that space for everything to happen. And on the whole, it's unnoticed. But I feel very noticed in this meeting, which is really exciting. But I have learned a lot about what it takes to be a leader in putting this together. And I enjoying your hunger for what's next.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
we will have to work it out. I wish the Victorian Press hadn't gone down, because we could have come up with something with them, because they were so willing. And I also I just want to share something that happened. Consuelo was the publisher, which I found very, very moving. She was an activist in Chile in, I think, Pinochet's time, and she was tortured under the regime. Ended up coming here and setting up this publishing house. And I went to the Chilean embassy, where she was honored for everything, a ceremony which is still alive, when she was being honored for everything she had done for the Latin American community and what she had done. So I felt this is a time when the arc of history is bending towards justice, that somebody who had been tortured by the state was now being honored by the state. And we hope that there's an Iranian woman who got up and she said, right now we're protesting outside our embassy. I hope that one day we will be inside the embassy being honored. So there's terrible things going on in the world today, which makes one feel so powerless. And I just think there was an article again by Sundar Katwala who said, don't underestimate small gestures of goodwill. That we have to do the little bit that we can in the world. And maybe sometimes the arc of history will bend towards justice. And sometimes it does.
Definitely.
That's totally true. I mean, if you look at where we are today, things are changing. Maybe not at the pace that we want them to, but things are changing. And I think that change happens when conversations like we're having today are taking place, when projects, this book writing um, are happening around the world, change happening. Some people will be like, well, I don't see any change now, and so why bother? And I always say your children will enjoy the change that you're initiating, the change that you're igniting. Your children will enjoy that, and your children's children enjoy that. So we don't just want to do it for ourselves. We are opening pathways and opening doors for those others. And hopefully they carry on, they'll keep passing the ball forward so that we don't spiral backwards. Um, I don't know if anybody else has any further comments or questions or can wrap up. Yes, but so yeah, conversations. If anybody has anything to say, maybe not about the book, but if a thought has occurred to you through this conversation, sharing is caring, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking about like when you talked about like changes, positive changes. Like I mentioned it before, I am involved with a lot of other activities as well. One of them is Groundswell, who I am interested in homelessness. Why? I came from a poor country, so seeing people homeless, living on the street, sleeping rough is like very common thing on our every street, high street. By the roads, by the everywhere, basically, because that's a poor country. But when I came in this country, I found that people living rough, sleeping rough, living on the streets. So that was a massive shock for me. I couldn't understand what makes these people in a social welfare country to sleep like that way, begging for money or like others' help that way. So I started looking for the question. I had the question, but I was looking for the answer. I haven't got any definite answer to please me, to satisfy me. That is not the thing. I found some answer, but ultimately what I found is like the system. You know, what's the name? Our previous Home Secretary, Suela. Suela, did I pronounce that right? Yeah, Suela mentioned that this is a life choice. No, definitely not. This is a life choice. Because the people I worked with, the people I worked for, there were a group of people who themselves were like homeless people. They're graduated from the universities, top level education they had, but still they had to become homeless. They had to they do not have, when someone become homeless, they do not have access to health, access to education, access to exercising their voting power. So this is very much systematic, very much systematic. System will refrain someone from having access to these facilities, what is in the society. Someone else is having and someone else is not. And looks like they don't bother about that. They don't care about that.
Yeah,
And in Birmingham County, Birmingham County been bankrupted. People,
Council.
Birmingham Council, yeah. I am involved with other organization called People's Economy. We are doing a Shift Birmingham. We are involved with a project called Shift Birmingham, just to understand better how the council runs, how the county runs. So the like from environment to the tax process, how does it happen? How do they get money? How do they spend those money? And this is limitless. And by this time we all know that why they became bankrupted, because they had to pay huge amount of money for only for their mistake
that they made in the
mistake that
yeah,
they made
yeah.
deliberately. They knew that that is not right. They were doing something which is not right, knowingly. Yeah. Unfair treatment. So this kind of thing, unfair things are in the system, embedded in the system, that need to come out. Someone has to take some kind of responsibilities. So from the grassroots level, marginalized community, this need to come out. People
Yeah.
need to raise their voice. Their voices need to be heard. If I do not, I say something always, if the people, marginalized people, do not speak for them, their stories will be retold by someone else. For example, when I am in photography, you know that. So when I take a photo, if that is reproduced, that keep losing their generation, that keep losing their quality. So when my story will be told by someone else, they will add something, they will leave something, they'll interpret on their own way. So three ways we already have mentioned, that the way story is being retold, it is losing their generation, it is losing their power.
Losing
That's
the
why
value.
the marginalized people needs to come out, be outspoken, say something directly by themselves. This is alternative media. And when you're talking about like power politics, and Pinochet and others, and recently Bangladesh, this massive change happened in Bangladesh. There's a bloody movement. A lot of people died. A lot of blood were on the street. A regime been changed. That is because the people, marginalized people, came out. They had enough. They fought. They started speaking for themselves, and that is why that thing happened. That was the power. So there's no reason to ignore this kind of marginalized people who are at the verge.
Yeah. I think the idea should be, when people start speaking, they should not stop. Because a lot of times you think, I'm all pumped up and fired up to speak because I'm hoping this will happen. And if that doesn't happen, we are then quick to step back and stop. But I think even if the outcome you expected does not happen straight away, the fact that you thought to speak, that is a step forward. So keep making those steps forward. If you don't succeed today, try again, you will succeed, as that saying goes. It's that saying didn't come from nowhere. It came from somebody who observed the value
Yes.
of
Yeah.
moving
If at
non-stop.
first you don't succeed, try and try again.
If you say we're going to meet today, 60 people say, yes, we will meet, and then only 20 people come, don't focus on the 40 that didn't come. Focus on the 20 that came, because they are making an impact. And if impact is visible, make sure the impact you make in that small number is visible. Those that did not turn up, the 40 that did not turn up, are going to see this impact that 20 people made. Next time they will come. But then if you give up, that means you are taking away that platform.
Very much true.
We'll continue to, in our own small ways, we will continue to talk about migration. We will continue to tell our own stories through Teresa, out here, through Moshid, through everyone who is here. Be inspired to tell your own story. You own it. Nobody else does. And if you allow somebody else to tell your story, it's a choice that you're making. And I would discourage it, because if I tell your story, trust, I'm gonna tell it perspective, and a lot of it will be diluted because I don't see things the way you see things. So always be fired up to tell your own story.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think it's the time to wrap up now. It is 6 o'clock, about to 6 o'clock. And from me, I would like to thank everyone. Aunt Katrina from Zambia or Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, sorry about that, my apology. Ashraf from
Zimbabwe.
Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone, Rose, I don't know where you joined from. Someone joined from Birmingham as well. I was very much excited to see her in here. And of course, Teresa, thank you very much for having us today. And we love to do something else as well with you. And we are always excited. We are always powerful to do something with you.
Yeah.
It'll be ours. And I just say thank you so much. It's been thrilling.
Indeed.
Thank you for the invitation, Teresa. Okay.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming,
Thank you.
Teresa. We do appreciate
Thank you.
you.
I feel very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you
Ashraf,
so
you want to
much.
say something?
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Ashraf. Thank you for joining.
It's night time. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye. Bye, Farah, later.